Hey everyone, today we're unboxing and reviewing the Panasonic ER-CTW1. Now be noted there's a very similar shaver to this, which is the ER-CTN1, which has a smaller cutting surface and might be more precise. However, it actually has less depth options. So I opted for the wider one in this case. Now this is my first big splurge when it comes to any kind of stuff for dealing with my beard. So I've had a beard since COVID, and I was thinking, you know what, I'm actually going to spend some money. I've been using cheap stuff up until this point, so I'm going to actually get something better. So what I had an issue with was finding any kind of reviews and unboxing videos for this to get an idea of what was exactly in the box. So that's why I decided to make this video. Hopefully this will help you with figuring out what you want to do here. So this is a modular system. I think it's probably not going to be a successful modular system because the base model is just so expensive that it's going to end up shooting itself in the foot and not facilitating enough sales of the modules. And I'm pretty sure what will happen is they'll die off and we're buying into a system here that probably is not going to be successful. But for shaving experience, I was hoping this was going to turn things around. So let's see what is in the box. So the box itself, pretty simple. The exterior is too simple actually. It has the model name only on the back, not on the front, which I think is stupid because there's two models that I've already shown you that are very similar to each other, and it should be at least showing what those different models are on the front of the box. You can also buy just the body itself with no actual shaving appliances to attach to it. So if you want to go for the full modular experience and then buy just the bits you want, you can do that if preferred. Now it comes with a velvet carry bag, but I would say this is very low quality, not nearly as good as what I would expect from something like this. And preferably I'd actually want a hard carry case here that I can actually put the device in, because of course might be traveling with it. So it'd be nice to have some protection for this expensive device. So you've got yourself a cap, which can be added onto the body just to protect the top of it, as it is potentially vulnerable to getting damaged. You've then got the different combs. If you're going for the smaller version, you will have less combs to work with. And then you've of course got the power adapter here as well, along with of course the shaving head and the body. And the body is extremely slim, I've got to give it that. It does look very small. I would actually prefer if it was a little bit bigger because you can put a bigger battery in, but it does look like a sleek, lovely device. It does also look a little bit like a dildo too. And they're actually missing out on not having a specific module for that, because then they could double their entire customer base. And talking of bases, it does have a flat surface on the back, so it can sit there without rolling around. I will say though, it doesn't work when the actual shaver head is on. You can't really lay it down, it will roll. So this is it next to a mouse, just to give you an overall size comparison to something you probably used in real life. And then we have the head of the shaver as well. Of course, again, this is for the larger version, so wider shaving head. You can of course get the smaller one. You'll also see that on that shaving head there's A, B and C. That's the different combs you can fit on with the different sizes, whereas the smaller shaving head is just an A and a B. Now let's move into one of the big downsides, and that is how this thing charges. So it has a proprietary charger, which means you can only charge it up with this plug. Of course, this is a big issue because if this breaks or you lose it, you'll have to replace it, and Panasonic can control the price of this charger, and it could go up significantly in price over time. So very bad. And if you're planning to travel with this thing, it's nice and small and sleek, until you remember you also have to bring the charger with you and of course not lose it when you go on holiday. And if you do, you won't have any way to charge this thing back up. Now let's move on to the actual shaving equipment itself. So we have here the body and the head, and these very simply click together, and they're also very easy to remove too. This also makes the cleaning extraordinarily simple. So this is the major positive for this device. And you can see here up at the head, you've also got a rotation ability to change the heights, and whatever comb you currently have installed, it'll change those overall heights. So right now we've got A installed, and you can see how that is simply moving. So yeah, really, really nice. This should be extremely easy to keep clean, and the adjustability is pretty much perfect. And like I say, I went for the bigger one here, so I have the C comb as well, which will just give me that extra length if I decide I want it someday. But we do have a bit of a design flaw here. So if we actually pull this comb off, you'll notice there's these tiny, tiny clips, which are extremely easy to potentially break. Now, interestingly, this comes with another comb that I think they've added in since its release, and that one actually has far thicker clips that they seem to have designed for it, whereas the original ones I do think were designed far too weak, and as a result they can easily break. I've seen that in reviews, and of course I've not broken any of mine yet, but I could easily see them being broken quite simply because they have tiny bits that even having these in storage and something kind of sits on them could easily break them. And this is definitely a big design flaw with this device, especially at this price. And because these combs are extremely unique, it's not like you can go out and just buy some new ones very easily. You're going to have to go get these from Panasonic, and it's going to be costly. In this one here, the D comb is for body hair, and I think this is a relatively new addition since the design of this. And the D one does have thicker prongs on the back, whereas the rest of them have those weaker ones. But yeah, you've got a lot of great options, and I think this is going to be quite lovely to use. And at the end of this video, I will have a conclusion going over my use of it over the course of 2 weeks. But so far with the unboxing, it's lovely. Very easy to keep clean, very good modular system. I don't know if I'll get any more modules for this in the future, but I do like the overall system, and the adjustability seems to be excellent too. And although it has some big design flaws, the stuff they have got right shows that they put a lot of good thought into this device and almost done a perfect job. If it was a little bit cheaper and took away some of the flaws that they have, I think this would actually be a very good modular system that I'd be willing to buy into with more modules. But of course, like I say, the initial cost is too high for that. Now let's talk about charging. So you've got one little indicator, which is a red LED, and this shows when you're plugged in and successfully charging. And that's actually it. So when it's fully charged, the light goes off, doesn't turn to green or anything like that. There's also no way to check the charge. So if you're like, is this half charged or has it got just a couple of % left? There's no way to check that at all, which is a bit of a pity. Now, the other thing here is that if you charge this for an hour, you'll get about 70 minutes of use. So I would say that pretty much you're going to be charging this up probably about once every week, or if you're shaving less often, probably once every 2 weeks. And of course, the batteries are non-replaceable. I'll also mention that if you have this plugged in, it will not switch on. So if the batteries die on you in the future and you're wanting to use this as a wired connection and still use it, you're not going to be able to because the device will not let you. So if the batteries die, this thing is dead. And of course, at some point in the future, they will die. Now, when it comes to maintenance and cleaning, it's pretty excellent. So you can see here the kind of cutting blades just flip off. You can see inside all the mechanics there and clean them out very easily. And this part can be covered in water and whatever. There's no problem to cleaning that up. So very lovely design. And then you can just unclip it from the head as well. So yeah, really, really good. Everything can be cleaned up so well, which is always an issue I've had with previous shavers. Now let's talk conclusion. So this is by far the most expensive shaver I've ever bought. I've always used very cheap stuff in the past, and the experience is definitely night and day. This thing is wonderful to use. But I do have issues with it. I think its battery will die at some point, of course. Just, it is the way it is. And the other part is that the combs on this, even if like I accidentally drop it someday, which is bound to happen when you're like in the bathroom at some point, right? You end up breaking one of those combs, it's going to be super, super hard to replace them. And that's going to be a big issue if that happens someday. So I'm going to have to be extra careful with this thing. Now I do love the modular design. I think it's really good, but it does have some issues and some weird kind of kinks. Like when you're charging it, it's got a nice flat base on the back of the cylinder to just sit there without rocking. However, if you have the comb on, there's no flat base. It'll actually roll around. So it's kind of like, am I supposed to always take the comb off when I'm charging this thing? It doesn't seem like they thought through all of the things here when they were making this modular design. And it was like someone built the handle, someone else built the comb, and they didn't all come together to really figure this out. And it has bits of genius in it, but just not done perfectly. I'd give it an overall 8 out of 10, far too pricey, got some major issues with replacing parts, but otherwise great.